More than 200 villages along Ghana's coastline rely on fisheries as their primary source of income. However, Ghana's small pelagic fishery, crucial for food security and livelihoods, is on the brink of a collapse following decades of overexploitation. The illegal practice of, quote, Saiko fishing, the transshipment of fish at sea from industrial trawlers to local canoes, has had a particularly destructive impact on Ghana's small pelagic fisheries. JoyNews' Koto Naku, as you saw in that promo, went undercover for several weeks in some of these vessels to capture the illegal fishing businesses that are said to have been suspended. Here is the first episode of a two-part series of the documentary titled Saiko, when the last fish is caught.
Meet 38-year-old Nana Kweja. His ancestry straddles many generations of fishermen.
I'm a native of Abanzi, born and bred here, and throughout my life, I have stayed here. I was born into a family whose business is fishing. I saw my grandfather doing fishing with my father, and my father also passing it on. So we had a chance to enroll at the basic school and continue schooling. So that's the difference between myself and my father. But both of us are fishermen, except that I went to school. So I am an educated fisherman.
Fishing has been a reliable source of livelihood for Kweja and his family, but that situation is changing rapidly as the tides and waves that keep the canoes at this landing beach afloat.
The scientific and technical working group has made us to understand that Saiko, as it is being practiced now, is the most destructive form of IUU. And that is what is actually driving the collapse of the industry. An analysis of a slab of Saiko by the Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Sciences, University of Cape Coast, revealed that over 90% of the catch is juvenile. Now, if you are catching juvenile fish in that quantity, then it means you are hindering the reproductive potential of the resource. If you are catching juvenile fish in that quantity, then where lies the potential of the resource to reproduce? So if you close the sea to allow for reproduction, but then Saiko business takes all the juvenile fish out of the sea, it renders that measure ineffective and useless. That is why we are worried that the regulator and the ministry will leave activities of Saiko, which is driving the industry down, and rather be busily engaging themselves with measures which are ineffective in the midst of this eco business. And I think somebody should be bold to call the minister to order.
The Saiko business, according to the Environmental Justice Foundation, an NGO that has its focus in fishing, dates back to the 1970s when a Japanese fisherman used the term saiti to describe the bad or rubbish fish that their trawlers discarded. But local artisanal fishers here in Ghana, who said the catch was of value, insisted it was Saiko, meaning good or useful fish. Subsequently, it developed into an informal trading system where unwanted fish caught by industrial vessels was exchanged at sea for goods such as oranges and water. The practice is prohibited under Ghana's fisheries laws and attract fines of between $100,000 and $2 million, with a minimum fine increasing to $1 million where juvenile fish is involved or prohibited fishing gear is used.
In 1996, when we hit the peak of small pelagics, we landed 130,000 metric tons, right? So Saiko is taking 110 out of the 130 historical maximum. So look at the quantum of fish that we are losing to Saiko. And the small pelagics they are catching when you examine the Saiko fish tablets. So if you are selling tablets of fish containing 90% juveniles, then you are not fishing in offshore waters, you are fishing in inshore waters.
Now that's a very disturbing development. Richard Koto Naku is producer of that documentary. He joins me on Zoom. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Gifty.
Some good work you've done there, I must say. But explain to us, I mean, why this is bad in the first place. Okay, so take us through the basics.
Well, so in fishing, we have the artisanal fishermen, we have the trawlers. Mostly they involve the vessels, the bigger vessels. And so the canoes have over the years been suffering. And then you know that the Ministry of Fisheries sometime last year instituted the close season, which went back and forth. I mean, the fishermen even fought over it. And finally, they had to even agree for that close season to come into force. Then there has been some research by the scientists from both Ghana and outside Ghana, I mean, saying that this illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing practices are disturbing the fisheries resource, especially the small fish you see there, the small pelagics. And so they said that in the year 2020 or thereabouts, if we don't take care, the fishery resources would be depleted. And very soon, if you go to the market, you will not have any fish to buy. And so you see the small fishes, I mean, in the insets over there, that is what these people catch. So they are not expected to catch this kind of fish. They have an area they should be trawling or they should be fishing. These areas are reserved specifically for the canoe fish. So they use the prescribed nets and then other legal methods in order for them to catch them. But these are fingerlings. They have not grown into the bigger size fishes that we would all want to see on our food. But this is what they are catching with a small nets. And these small nets, by the way, they are illegal because they have the mesh nets that are there, and then they are not supposed to use these nets for the fishing activities. So it went back and forth, and then they came together and said that, well, they have suspended these activities that are ongoing. So we decided that, well, let's go undercover and see and verify whether indeed what they told the entire nation is true or not. And this is the result that we find in this documentary.
Tell us about the syndicates that are working, or the syndicates behind this illegal practice, in terms of what you found.
Well, so it's a pretty dangerous adventure. It involves some big wigs in the country. Most of them are politicians. They are behind some of these bigger vessels and the others. So they have also put on board the observers. Observers, most of them are graduates, but because they do not have any job to do, they put them on these vessels. Their job is basically to find out whether this is really happening on the sea. When they put them on these vessels, when they see all of these things, they bring their report to the commission, the Fisheries Commission. On this report that these people have risked their lives, and then when they are gone to sea, to bring back to them. They don't exact any action. And when they find that you are too nosy about, or you are too truthful about whatever you found while at sea, then it means that they are not going to employ your services again. And then we also know that one person has got missing, and we do not know the whereabouts of that particular observer that was put on board. And so it becomes very complicated. Who to crack the whip is really the problem. And it's an infringement on the LI that says that these transshipments are illegal. And so that is really the syndicate that is out there. Very, very powerful people. And this one you see on board is just a small portion of what is really happening. If you see the amount of fish that are thrown using the shovels and the others, they carry them, they put them in containers, and then they throw them back. The fish are dead. They are not supposed to catch them anyway, but they have caught them. What they do is that they select what they need, and then they also select some parts that fishermen from Mumford, Apam, Elmina, and other parts of the Western region, they mix them on sea, and then they transfer these fish to them. And that is what they call, if you go to Elmina, if you go to Apam, if you go to Mumford, they call them Saiko. So this is the end result of what is happening on sea. So very soon, if we don't take care, all these activities the resultant effect is that the fishermen will spend huge amounts of money. They will buy premix. They will virtually come home with an empty net. And that is the result. So an urgent action ought to be implemented in order to halt this practice. Otherwise, we are all in it. And over 200 communities that are dotted along the coastal belt of the country will stand to suffer, because that is their only livelihood. They depend on the sea for their food, to take care of their children. And it's been an age-old occupation for them. And so that is what they do. Thankfully, these days, some of their children do go to school, but majority of them, that is where they get everything they get from.
Richard, so in the full documentary, what should we expect?
Well, we should expect that we will see more of the activities these vessels engage in, even though they tell us that these activities have been suspended. So it had to take someone to go and prove to them that indeed these activities are still ongoing, and then it has not been stopped as they come to tell us, because they know that on their high seas, no one would dare go there. But we decided that, well, we have to point it out to them that indeed these are the footages that we have. We've gone there, we know what's happening there, and then we want the policymakers, government, to really ensure that these things are stopped, because we have the Fisheries Commission, we have the Ministry of Aquaculture or Fisheries. They have to really rally around and then ensure that these practices are stopped.
Let me wrap up with your personal experience. I mean, I don't expect you to divulge any information that will jeopardize any future plans of such investigations, etc. But tell us, share with us the part of the information you can about your experience doing this. Hi, Richard.
Well, hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
So a lot of decision had to be made in order to, before I even embarked on this one, I was scared. I didn't know whether, what about if I am caught filming, if what will happen to me, because on the high seas, even though you know how to swim, how would you swim from that part if you are, excuse me to say, if you are thrown into the sea?
And I'm seeing the waves right now from beneath the vessel, and it's not small waves at all.
Exactly. So I mean, a lot had to go into it, and finally I decided that, well, we need a solution to this one, because it's a problem that affects all of us, and eventually, if we don't get any solution, it will affect the entire nation. So that is why I had to take that decision to embark on this perilous journey.
Well done. And for those who are the fisher folk in the area, what sort of response have you had so far, though?
Well, it's their cry. They've been crying for a very long time, but some of them, it's divided though, because some of them are benefiting. Yeah. Some are, we call the Saiko people, other places, they meet these big vessels on the sea, and then they sell it to them at peanuts, and so it's something they get a lot of money from. But there are the other artisanal canoe and fishermen who spend thousands of Ghana cedis buying premixed fuel. They go, they tell their families that they are going and they will be back with some catch. They come and sometimes they don't even get anything. So what happens to all that he has spent? And if care is not taken, it will be a national security problem, because that is the only thing they know as far as their dependence or their livelihood is concerned.
Richard, thank you so much. So this documentary is airing tonight at 8:30 p.m. here on the JoyNews channel, right? Okay, I wanted him to help me with that, but it's certainly showing tonight at 8:30 p.m. on your JoyNews channel. You want to follow that conversation.
Ghana's fisheries resources keep depleting at an alarming rate, affecting food security and the livelihoods of some fisherfolk.
The fish they are throwing back into the sea, they are dead.
Illegal fishing over many decades has led to the overexploitation of the small pelagic fishes by trawlers.
They themselves, they knew that what they are doing is offense, or it's not the right thing they're supposed to do.
What would we do when the last fish is caught? JoyNews' Richard Koto Naku goes undercover on the high seas and returns with exclusive footage of trawlers engaged in illegal transshipment of fish. Saiko, when the last fish is caught.
8:30 p.m. tonight, 6:30 tomorrow. You want to make a date for that very revealing documentary by Richard Koto Naku.